Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today, we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Our first story today comes to us from PDB. You want me to wear a see-through shirt? Gladly. Let's jump right in. When I was 15, I started working for a particular clown who owns a fast food restaurant. When I first started working, the manager assumed I was 16 and I was given a red polo shirt to wear during my shifts. There was a hierarchy to the shirts at this restaurant. White was for anyone 15 and younger. You got a red shirt once you were 16 or over. Black shirts were for crew trainers, and the full button-down shirts were for managers. All of the shirts were made of a decent fabric except for the white shirt, which was very thin and practically see-through. About a month after I started working there, the manager called me into her office and asked why I had lied to her about my age. I told her that I had never once said to her that I was only 15, so I never really lied about it. She told me I had to hand in my red shirt and exchange it for a white one, which I did. I wore the white one for about a week, and that's when I noticed after the first wash, the fabric became even thinner and the shirt was practically see-through. As a heavy-set individual, if I were not wearing an undershirt, you would have seen all of my hairy, manly glory underneath this sorry excuse for a shirt. I asked since I had already been wearing a red shirt for a month, and the shirt colors really don't mean much, could I get my old red shirt back? I was told that it was company policy to follow the shirt rules, and I was denied my old red shirt. Cue the malicious compliance. There was a rule stating I had to wear my see-through company-issued shirt for all my shifts. There was no rule stating what I had to wear underneath. My dad had recently returned from Mexico and had brought me the most touristy shirt from his trip. There were 4 panels on this shirt. The first had a worm and a shot that said 1 tequila. The second, the same worm, second shot, much drunker, and said 2 tequila. The third, the same worm, third shot, very drunk, and said 3 tequila. And as I'm sure you have deduced, the fourth is the worm passed out, and it says floor. I decided this was the perfect shirt for a 15-year-old register worker at the clown shop to wear underneath his see-through shirt. I wore it for one shift before the manager came up to me. She told me how much she didn't appreciate the fact that I wore such a vulgar shirt underneath my work uniform. I politely told her nobody would know what I was wearing underneath my company-issued work shirt if they weren't see-through. When I went to clock out that day, they had a brand new, unused red polo shirt just waiting for me. I was told to wear the red shirt from that point forward and to turn in my white shirts. I did a little bit of research into the colored shirts in these restaurants and found out that they serve a very specific purpose. The people in the white shirts that are under 16 years old actually aren't able to use some of the equipment in the restaurant due to child labor laws. So that's just a really easy way to tell the people apart. Now, OP did mention in a comment down below that they had a bunch of other shirts lined up for underneath in case this one didn't do the trick, including one from a friend who worked across the street for Burger King. Do me a quick favor, have a look down below the video. If that subscribe button's still red, it means you're not actually subscribed to the KCC channel. Please hit that subscribe button for more daily Reddit stories. Our next story today comes to us from 111-1119-11111. No worries, I got you covered. Let's jump right in. This one happened when I was serving as a mechanic in the military. Our unit was deployed on a domestic op for disaster relief. We had about 90 vehicles that made the drive, and it took 3 long days of driving to get there. For anyone not familiar with old military vehicles from the 90s, they are definitely an uncomfortable ride and don't go very fast. Each vehicle had 2 assigned drivers that rotated at their own discretion. Anyone not assigned to a vehicle got to ride in comfort, either in one of the charter buses or there were a couple of flights home. Both options were much more comfortable than driving. The day we arrived, a vehicle was brought to us with a broken rear window, low on the priority list, but still not legally roadworthy. I tagged the side window with a grounded vehicle notice and took the universal key from the vehicle. All our vehicles of the same type have the same key style to switch on the ignition. The doors are never locked because key tracking with the amount of vehicles we have is non-existent, and there's always guards around the compound at night. I noticed the next day before lunch the vehicle wasn't in the compound, but didn't think much of it. I knew it wasn't being worked on because it's a small shop and I manage shop flow. Over the next 3 weeks, I noticed it was usually gone at lunch, but was always there when we were shutting the shop down in the evenings. I should mention the mess hall we were eating at was about a 15-minute walk from the compound. Once I noticed a pattern with this vehicle, I sat outside before lunch, puffing on a cigar and playing on my phone. I watched the drivers that dropped the vehicle off broken walk up to it, remove my grounded tag, then drive off in the vehicle towards the mess hall. The big red grounded tags are supposedly a chargeable offense if removed by anyone other than a mechanic, but no one at my unit would enforce that, especially because one of the drivers was an officer, so I let it go and made sure no one fixed that window. A couple days before the road move home, I saw the list go out. Everyone who drove out in a vehicle was driving it back home. Everyone else was stuffed on buses, and Overflow had 3 flights home. Sure enough, that officer and his buddy were on one of the flights because their vehicle was grounded and going home on a flatbed. The day before the flights, I went over and screwed some plywood over the window of that vehicle, then informed his chain of command that his vehicle was roadworthy and needed a driver to go home. There were no available flatbeds, I made sure of that. The officer came down all upset to try and get it on a truck anyway because his flight was tomorrow. But my sergeant was well aware of the situation and told him if his vehicle was roadworthy every day to drive him to the mess hall, then it was definitely able to get him home. The look on his face was priceless. 3 days of crap driving to save himself 15 minutes of walking a day. I love how you didn't want to say anything knowing that it was an officer using that vehicle, but then you used your brain and made them have to drive that thing all the way back. OP, that was a wonderful story. Our next story today comes to us from Matt Rock J. Your assignment isn't long enough. Describe your thinking process. Let's jump right in. So I'll first say university is hard, but bad professors make it 10 times harder. My literature professor in particular made a point that he is very stringent on grading. Everything needed to be done exactly as asked, and you must use what you learned in class. This isn't uncommon, but it was like he was railroading us to doing everything his way, which is ironic since, like I said, it's a literature class. Anyways, on a recent assignment, I'll admit, I didn't exactly put my heart and soul into it. It was just a book report, but I didn't care much for the book, so I sorta just skimmed it. Anyways, after I got my grade back, I discovered that I had gotten a C, and the only notes he gave were, "Your assignment isn't long enough. Describe your thinking process." Needless to say, I was thoroughly pissed. I didn't put my all into it, but it's not like I didn't try. So fine, you want a longer assignment, you'll get one. The next assignment was on Shakespeare, and we were allowed to use any of his works. I'd done Romeo and Juliet so many times it had become boring, but that also meant I was really good at it, more specifically, writing about it. The next week of my life was spent writing a very intricate and long essay detailing a surrealist perspective of Juliet and her suicide. Actually, I'm pretty proud of it too. Best part though, it was 12 pages. I literally detailed every tiny piece I could squeeze out. I included dictionary definitions, references to modern literature, and even a whole BS segment claiming it was a retelling of Hamlet, mostly just me trying to make as many statements as possible. Anyways, since everything is online now, I handed it in through the Dropbox system they have. Feeling pretty content with myself, I decided to look at some of the other submissions. The longest one I found was 4 pages, also about Romeo and Juliet, and I instantly became even more pleased with myself. So grading time comes around, and it seems to be taking a little longer than usual. Actually, I got my grades for that assignment a week late. I checked mine and was shocked to see no notes, but I did get an A. However, in the notes for the whole class, I found it said, "Please keep future assignments below 3 pages unless specified." Pretty sure I won that battle. Are you really sure you're the only one who won that battle though, OP? Because I think this malicious compliance goes both ways. You gave the professor what they wanted by giving them an extra amount of work done, and your professor successfully got you to put effort in their class. Our next story today comes to us from Z Simbora. Use a template for forwarding tickets? No problem. Let's jump right in. Longtime reader, first time poster, I love your stories, so I thought I would share mine as well. English is not my first language, but I am proficient, so berate me for all the mistakes I make. I used to work in a call center for a while as first level support. I did 3 different projects. This was my last one as support for a pharmaceutical company. General stuff, solve technical issues, and if it's not possible, then send it to second level teams. our team leader got feedback from the second level teams that we do not share enough information when sending a ticket to them, so they created a template to use when forwarding a ticket. The template was very generic and was only good for like 2 types of issues to handle, so I did not use that much. I was good at what I was doing, so no complaints about me anyway. The team leader approached me to use the template every time I forwarded a customer case. I told him that the template is basically useless for most of the issues, that's why I didn't use it. He insisted to use it anyway. Cue malicious compliance. From now on, I use the template for all tickets I forwarded, and it really increased the time to log a case. I used some self-created templates previously, so I could do it as fast as I can. Because of having to fill in all the unnecessary details, I could do a ticket in like 3 to 5 minutes. It went up to 10 to 20 depending on the case. This made my performance go down a bit, but like I cared, they told me to use it all the time. In the end, I found out that if a keyword is used, the report shows I used the template. I recreated my templates including the keyword so I could log tickets fast again, but as mentioned, using the template took a lot of time, so I spent my time in ticket handling for the same amount of time, but not actually doing anything, just relaxing. Perks of work from home, I suppose. They always pushed us to work fast. Idea of the template was reduce the time needed for logging, duh. As we could, as the volume was high, but whatever. They asked me to use their stupid template anyway. In the end, I was barely doing any calls as I was on my notice, but they did not fire me as they needed me to handle the workload. I was hoping to be fired or just let go so I could start my new job earlier. No more call centers, thanks. I'm kind of on the wall for this one. On one hand, yes, you were a little bit more efficient using your own templates and your own processes. But on the other hand, maybe the information that they wanted you to collect in their template was needed by the further tiers and you weren't supplying all the information you needed to. Something to think about. Our next story today comes to us from Texas Tiger 70. Delicious compliance, not a typo. Let's jump right in. I was an eager to please kid working my first real job as a busboy in a steakhouse. I would help out anyone, anytime to prove I could do other things. Dishwasher out? No problem. We did large steaks. Smallest steak was the 1-pound filet mignon. They are no longer in business, but were called You Are Cooks. It was a guy's place where you picked your steak and cooked it on an open grill in the middle of the dining room. No disrespect, but we were all but closed on Mother's Day. I would be scheduled as a busboy and end up doing any job that was needed. I would often change the blades in the meat saw, bandsaw, so the meat cutter could just start on the next cut. T-bones used different blades than sirloin. The meat cutter liked me and one slow night had me cut the sirloins. He joked with the managers that they needed to give me a raise as I was getting as good as him. I would get scheduled as a busboy, remember this, to come in hours early to help with prep. I was paid as a busboy. This went on for months. I didn't mind the pay difference as I would get tipped out by the servers and often would help customers cook their steaks and get tips then too. As a kid, it didn't dawn on me that I was losing money. Now, this is where the fun starts. When you get a large uncut sirloin butt, you will never get it cut exactly. The shape prevents that. So the end pieces or scraps from any cut was packaged up and sold to the employees for 25 cents a pound. Typically, there would be half a pound of waste per group cut, so for a sirloin butt, half a pound. We would cut 10 a day. Older employees got first chance and buying the excess. The day before Father's Day, there was a huge fight, and the meat cutter was told to take a few days off and decide if he really wanted to work there. He was then taken off the schedule. I was on the schedule as the busboy and was scheduled to come in early as usual. I had only been helping and had never run the area on my own. About an hour into it, the manager noticed I was too slow and that we would never be ready to open, so she had me help her. She took over cutting the steaks and I just prepped the trays, changed the blades, the normal. Now I only did what I was told, and when I suggested changing the blades, she told me there is no time and kept cutting. Using the wrong blade on the sirloin tears it instead of cutting it. She would tear off a chunk and toss it to me. I tried several times to stop her, but she wasn't listening to me and told me that if I didn't quit trying to slow her down, she would send me home. So I didn't try to stop her anymore. She cut 15 sirloin butts, and was proud of how she had less waste than normal. I had everything as prepped as I could, and she turned and saw the mess. There was not a single steak that we could put out. All of it had to go to waste. The next day, I was told I was fired for ruining all the steaks. There were all 4 managers there, as well as the owner. The owner told me I would never be a meat cutter anywhere with as bad as I had done. He then asked me what I had to say for myself. I turned around and pulled the work schedule off the wall and handed it to him while asking him to check the records for my employment. I then asked him if there is no meat cutter assigned, who is to do the cutting, and why he would believe anyone would put the lowly busboy in charge of cutting thousands of dollars worth of steak. It took about 5 minutes for him to get the whole story out of the manager. She got fired. I got promoted to assistant meat cutter, and as a bonus, I was given 100 pounds of deformed sirloin to take home. 16-year-old me put on a hell of a barbecue party at the apartments. Long story short, I helped in an area, then got blamed by a manager who messed up, owner figured it out, and fired them. Well, this one pretty much just has the hallmarks of a wonderful manager, doesn't it? Taking credit for other people's work and then assigning blame for mistakes that they make. OP, I love how the manager tried to throw you under the bus, but didn't realize that you were the one actually driving the bus, and they were underneath it. Check out all 5 OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching, I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.